Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. If you're joining us right now, it's because you have a deep-seated curiosity about the technology that surrounds us. You're the kind of person who wants to cut through all that marketing noise to get to the actual engineering truth.
Right, because the marketing isn't always the reality.
Exactly. So our mission today is highly focused. We are examining a brief but really intriguing set of excerpts that completely challenge the fundamental assumption about a wildly popular piece of tech.
It's a great selection you brought us today, too. We aren't wading through some massive 500-page white paper.
No, thankfully not.
We're looking at a very specific correction in the hardware space. And it honestly opens up a much wider conversation about how we learn new technical skills.
Yeah, so our sole source material for today's discussion is an excerpted piece titled "The Raspberry Pi Pico Isn't a Small Raspberry Pi."
Such a great title.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it was created by Aaron Rose. So, okay, let's unpack this because the title itself is a spoiler.
Oh, totally.
It directly challenges what the product name implies. And that really sets the stage for a conversation about how we understand tech hardware and, honestly, the people who try to explain it to us.
What's fascinating here is how the author uses that title to immediately disrupt a really common misconception.
Right.
Because in the tech world, naming conventions can often mislead users. Companies love brand synergy.
They really do. They want to leverage the massive popularity of their flagship product.
Exactly. In this case, the Raspberry Pi. So they slap that famous name on a completely different piece of silicon to give it a market boost. But this title serves as a hard boundary. It clearly establishes that the Pico is something fundamentally different from its namesake. It's not just a smaller iteration.
Which is so frustrating if you're the one buying it. Like, if you know what a Raspberry Pi is, a highly capable, full-fledged, single-board computer, your brain just automatically fills in the blanks when you see the word Pico attached to it.
You naturally assume it's just a miniaturized version.
Yeah, you expect it to be a tiny desktop computer that does all the exact same things, runs the exact same software, but just fits into a smaller case.
But the technical reality is completely different. If you buy a standard Raspberry Pi, you're essentially buying a microprocessor-based system.
Right, a full computer.
Exactly. And the easiest way to conceptualize the difference is to think of a microprocessor as the general manager overseeing a massive factory.
I love this analogy.
It works so well. That
Yeah.
general manager doesn't actually build the cars on the assembly line. They oversee the whole operation. They run a full operating system like Linux, which manages memory, handles complex network connections, runs a web browser, and juggles dozens of applications all at once.
Which is why people use a standard Pi to build retro gaming arcades or home media servers. It's a full-blown computer managing complex tasks.
But the Raspberry Pi Pico, that is a microcontroller.
It's a different beast.
Entirely. If the microprocessor is the general manager, the microcontroller is the highly specialized worker right there on the assembly line.
So it doesn't need a heavy operating system.
No, not at all. It doesn't juggle 100 different software apps. It wakes up, looks at the single piece of code you gave it, and executes that specific job perfectly, millions of times a second, with zero background distractions.
So you aren't plugging a monitor and a keyboard into a Pico and booting up a desktop interface?
There is no desktop.
Mm.
With the Pico, you plug it into your main computer, write a script, usually in something like MicroPython, flash that single program directly onto the board. When it powers up, it just runs that one loop forever.
So what does this all mean?
Well,
For you, the listener, navigating your own learning journey, this highlights how important it is to question basic assumptions, even the ones right in the name of a product.
you really can't rely on marketing to teach you foundational engineering. You need a reliable guide, someone who actually understands the code environment and the hardware.
And that brings us perfectly to the creator behind our source material. Let's talk about Aaron Rose.
Yeah, his background is really key here.
The source points out his specific professional titles, and it's a really potent combination. He is explicitly identified as both a software engineer and a technology writer.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see why that specific combination of roles is so vital for the listener.
It's rare to find both.
It really is. Think about the standard divide in the tech sector. On one side, you have pure software engineers. They have the foundational, in-the-weeds technical knowledge. They understand the silicon and the absolute reality of how a device functions.
But they aren't always the best at explaining it to someone outside their field.
No, they often speak in incredibly dense jargon. It's technically accurate, but totally inaccessible for a beginner.
And then on the other side,
you have general tech writers or marketing teams. They know how to engage an audience, but they might lack that foundational engineering knowledge.
So they might accidentally gloss over crucial technical distinctions.
Exactly. Which is how we end up with a microcontroller being marketed as just a tiny Raspberry Pi.
But Aaron Rose bridges that gap. Being a software engineer means he knows the dense reality of the hardware, but being a technology writer means he has the specialized skill of translating that dense engineering reality into accessible concepts.
He recognizes the branding trap and writes a piece with a title that perfectly corrects the misconception.
And the source mentions exactly where his written work lives. You can find his home base over at tech-reader.blog. That's the main hub for these technical translations.
It's a great resource.
It is. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Aaron Rose doesn't just stick to text. Our source material reveals that he is actively expanding his medium. He also creates explainer videos and podcasts.
Producing across multiple mediums is a lot of work.
It is, but he's making sure it's available. Specifically, you can find this multimedia content on the Tech Reader YouTube channel under the handle @TechReader2007.
And that multi-platform approach is huge for learners.
Why do you think that is? Is text not enough?
Well, some complex tech concepts, like why a Pico physically isn't a tiny Raspberry Pi, might just click better for you through a visual explainer video.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you might read the article on tech-reader.blog and understand the general manager versus assembly worker analogy. But when you watch an explainer video, you literally see the two boards side by side.
You see that the standard Pi has huge USB ports and an HDMI output.
Right. And then you see the Pico next to it. And it's just this tiny strip of silicon with a micro USB port and raw pins.
That visual input is an instant aha moment.
Exactly. And conversely, some topics are perfect for an audio deep dive. You can listen to the nuances of the tech while you're commuting. By offering text, visual videos, and audio, Rose is ensuring his technical translations meet learners exactly where they are.
It's about respecting the learner's time and their specific style of absorbing information. So to wrap this up, the core takeaways for you today really boil down to two things. First, that crucial tech correction. The Raspberry Pi Pico is not just a small Raspberry Pi. It is a completely different piece of hardware meant for specialized single-task jobs.
You really have to ignore the marketing label and look at the actual engineering.
And second, we got an introduction to Aaron Rose as this incredibly versatile cross-platform resource. From tech-reader.blog to the @TechReader2007 YouTube channel, he's blending real engineering expertise with accessible writing, videos, and podcasts.
Which is exactly what you need when you're navigating the modern tech landscape. Finding information isn't the problem anymore. We have too much information.
We're drowning in it.
We really are. What you actually need is to find reliable translators, people who can clarify those confusing product names and break down complex engineering concepts across whatever medium best suits your learning style.
Perfectly said.
Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
If a new device shares a famous brand name, but serves an entirely different foundational purpose, like the Pico does compared to a standard Raspberry Pi, how much does marketing terminology subconsciously shape or even limit our understanding of new technology before we even take it out of the box?
That is a fascinating question to chew on. Keep that in mind the next time you're browsing for hardware. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you next time.